Have you ever walked away from a conversation feeling wrong? Not because you were rude or unkind. In fact, you were the opposite. You were patient. You were sympathetic. You listened intently. But still, you walked away feeling inexplicably drained, heavy, as if you were wearing a lead coat, cloaked in a thin film of guilt you couldn't quite name. Your own problems suddenly seemed trivial. Your own joys felt inappropriate, almost shameful. Have you ever met someone who seems to live under a perpetual storm cloud? Someone for whom every minor inconvenience is a soul-crushing tragedy. Every constructive criticism, a vicious personal attack, and every piece of bad luck, a targeted strike from a cruel and unjust universe? You try to help. It's your first instinct. You offer advice, you give support, you lend your strength, hoping to be a lighthouse in their storm. But the storm never passes. In fact, the more light you shine, the darker their clouds seem to get. The more you give, the more they seem to need. And slowly, you begin to notice a strange, unsettling pattern, a kind of psychic physics you were never taught. Your own energy depletes in direct proportion to how much you engage with them. Your own happiness feels like something you should hide, something to be apologized for in the face of their profound and unending suffering. What if I told you this is not a coincidence? What if I told you that you weren't just being a good friend, but that you were an unwitting participant in a dark psychological game? A game where the person playing the victim is not powerless at all, but is, in fact, holding all the cards. The German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, one of history's most unflinching and dangerous thinkers, saw this dynamic not as mere misfortune, but as a sophisticated and poisonous strategy. He saw victimhood as a form of power, a weaponized weakness used by the resentful to control, disarm, and drain the very life force from the strong, the happy, and the free. He warned that the person who has mastered the art of playing victim doesn't need force or authority to become a tyrant. They only need one thing from you, your pity. And once they have it, they have you. This isn't just a philosophical curiosity from a bygone era. It's a map to a hidden battlefield in your daily life. And understanding its rules is a matter of psychological survival. To truly understand this dark power, we must follow Nietzsche into what he called the hidden laboratory of the human soul. This is the birthplace of a poisonous kind of resentment, a deep and creative bitterness that, over centuries, can twist reality and change the world. Nietzsche asks us to imagine two basic mindsets, two sources from which all values flow. The first belongs to the strong. This person is not defined by wealth or status, but by their spirit. They are overflowing with vitality, confidence, and a powerful life force. Their sense of right and wrong springs forth from their own sense of abundance. They look at their own qualities, their courage, their passion, their creativity, and they say, "This is good." What is weak, timid, or sick is simply bad, an unfortunate opposite to their own vibrant existence. Their morality is an act of affirmation, a powerful yes said to life in all its beauty and its terror. Now, imagine the second mindset, that of the resentful. This person is weak, fearful, and unable to get what they truly want. They look at the strong and are consumed by a silent, powerless envy. It's a venom that has no outlet. They cannot win in an open fight, so they retreat into the shadows of their own mind to wage a secret war. It is here, in the darkness, that they perform their greatest, most terrible magic. Unable to say, "I am weak," they instead whisper, "Your strength is evil." Unable to admit, "I am miserable," they declare, "Your happiness is a sin." Their fear is relabeled as humility. Their inability to get revenge is twisted into forgiveness. Their cowardice is reframed as patience. And their suffering, the very proof of their powerlessness, is held up as the highest virtue, the ultimate proof of their righteousness. To suffer in this new upside-down world is to be holy. This is a complete flip of all values. The weak create their sense of good simply by condemning the values of the strong. The person who plays the victim today is the modern heir to this dark tradition. Their entire identity is a performance of this righteous suffering. When they tell you about their endless misfortunes, they aren't just asking for help. They're making a moral statement. They are saying, I am in pain, therefore I am a good person. You are not in pain, therefore you are suspicious. They are performing a quiet moral judgment, and the price you pay to watch their show is your own sense of guilt. But how does this poison spread? How does the victim use their worldview to control others? The delivery system is an emotion we have all been taught to see as a fundamental virtue. Pity. Nietzsche saw pity as one of the most destructive forces in human existence because it multiplies suffering. When you pity someone, you do not lift them up. You confirm their powerlessness. You agree with their assessment that they are a helpless victim of circumstance. You sink down into the mud with them, and in doing so the world becomes a little more miserable, a little weaker. The professional victim understands this instinctively. Their performance of helplessness is a carefully designed hunt for your pity. Every sigh, every sad story, every subtle hint of injustice is bait. It is laid out with precision, waiting for a compassionate heart to step into its snare. The moment you feel that pang of pity, the trap springs shut. Pity is the key that unlocks the gate to your mind. Once inside, it acts like a tranquilizer. It disables your critical thinking, your judgment, your instincts. How can you hold someone accountable when you pity them? How can you set boundaries with someone whose pain you feel responsible for? How can you celebrate your own success in their presence without feeling profoundly selfish? You can't. Pity forces the healthy to kneel before the sick. It demands that the strong sacrifice their own joy out of respect for the weak. This is the weaponization of pity. The victim's unspoken accusation hangs in the air between you. My suffering is your moral duty. If you do not cater to my needs, if you do not put my emotional state above your own, then you are a cruel, unfeeling person. They transform their weakness into your chains. Your time and energy are no longer your own. They have been drafted into their endless drama. You become an emotional servant to a tyrant disguised as a refugee. If this content is resonating with you, and you wish to explore more ideas that challenge conventional thinking, click the subscribe button to support the channel. And here is why this dynamic is so incredibly difficult to fight. The master of victimhood is never acting alone. They are backed by what Nietzsche called the mindset of the crowd, or the morality of the herd. He argued that this morality of the resentful eventually becomes the dominant value system of society. It creates a collective that finds safety in shared weakness and mediocrity. The crowd's main goal is not excellence, but comfort. Not strength, but the elimination of all danger and all struggle. It instinctively fears the exceptional individual, the strong, independent spirit who dares to live by their own rules. This individual is a wolf, and the herd of sheep must find a way to tame them, to pull their teeth, to make them safe. So the crowd develops a moral code designed to domesticate the strong. It praises values like conformity, obedience, and above all, sympathy for those who suffer. A good person, according to the crowd, is someone who is harmless, agreeable, and always ready to comfort the afflicted. The person playing the victim is the perfect hero for this mindset. They are the living proof that weakness is a virtue. When you try to challenge a person playing the victim, you aren't just arguing with one person. You are pushing back against a moral system that has been dominant for centuries. Their complaints are not just personal. They are a ritual, a liturgy, reciting the sacred beliefs of the crowd. When they accuse you of being insensitive or selfish for not catering to them, they are using the full moral weight of the group against you. They are branding you as an outcast, a bad person, who has violated the sacred duty of pity. This is what makes their position so unshakable. It is a perfect psychological trap, a conversation you can never win. If you give them the pity they crave, you confirm their story and become a new source of energy for them to drain. You have lost. If you challenge them, question their story, or suggest they take responsibility, you prove their central belief, that the world is filled with cruel, uncaring people, just like you, who are determined to hurt them. You have lost again. They win either way. They have built a fortress of logic, where they are the prosecutor, the judge, and the star witness in a trial where you are always found guilty. And your crime? Not being as miserable as they are. It is easy to see Nietzsche's ideas as abstract, but the victim tyrant is a real and present force in the modern world. They are the coworker who blames everyone else for their lack of promotion. They are the friend whose every conversation is a monologue of misfortune. They are the family member who controls every gathering with their fragile emotional state. To protect your own vitality, you must learn to recognize their methods. First, and most fundamentally, is the complete and total refusal to take responsibility. Nothing is ever their fault. Their life is something that happens to them, a series of unfortunate events inflicted by others. They have outsourced all control over their own lives, becoming a passive object in their own story. Second, their identity is built on a currency of grievance. They collect injustices, both large and small, and display them like trophies. They speak of insults from years ago with the raw, bleeding emotion of a fresh wound. This is because their suffering is not a problem to be solved. It is their primary asset. It is what gives them moral authority and what makes them interesting. Their deepest fear is not more pain, but the end of pain, for that would leave them with no identity at all. This leads to the third and most revealing trait. They consistently reject solutions. Try this. The next time you are faced with their performance of pain, listen with patience, and then offer a clear, practical, actionable solution. Watch what happens. Almost invariably, your suggestion will be met with a yes, but. They will expertly find a dozen reasons why your solution is unworkable, why their situation is uniquely complex and hopeless. This is because they are not looking for an escape from their prison. The prison is their throne. They do not want a solution. They want a perpetual audience for their tragedy. Finally, they rule through a quiet tyranny of emotional blackmail. They learn to control the entire atmosphere around them with passive aggression, strategic withdrawals into silence, and perfectly timed sighs of disappointment. Others soon learn to walk on eggshells. You become afraid to share good news lest it highlights their lack of it. You hesitate to disagree, for fear of triggering a dramatic collapse. Without ever issuing a direct order, they force the entire social environment to revolve around their emotional needs. They achieve total control through total weakness. If we are trapped in this web of weaponized pity and crowd-based morality, is there any escape? Are we doomed to feel guilty for our own strength? Nietzsche's answer is a resounding no. His philosophy is not a sentence of despair, but a declaration of independence for the human spirit. The antidote to the poison of victimhood is found in two of his most life-affirming concepts: becoming a higher, more independent person, and the radical acceptance of your own fate. Becoming a higher person means overcoming the need for the crowd's approval. It means freeing yourself from their definition of good and evil and becoming the creator of your own values. This is the first step. You must see the victim's morality for what it is, a system designed to tame you and keep you small. Your values must spring from your own life, your own joy, and your own will to grow. To become immune, you must wield the ultimate shield, a love of your fate. The person playing the victim looks at their life and asks, "Why me?" They see every hardship as an injustice to be lamented. The higher spirit looks at the very same hardships, a failure, a betrayal, a loss, and says, "This was necessary. This is part of my story. I would not have it any other way." Loving your fate is not just about tolerating your life. It is about embracing it unconditionally. It is the profound realization that every moment of pain, every setback, and every struggle was an essential ingredient in forging who you are today. To wish away your struggles is to wish away your strength. The person who embraces their fate becomes invulnerable to the victim's primary weapon. How can someone make you feel guilty for their fate when you are in love with your own? They can't. Your love of your own destiny frees you from the coercive power of their pity. You can feel compassion for their struggle, but you are no longer chained by it. By taking absolute responsibility for your life, you grant them the ultimate respect, the freedom to be responsible for theirs. We have walked through the dark landscape of Nietzsche's most dangerous idea. He leaves us with a stark and urgent warning. Beware of those who have made a virtue of their suffering. They are not the harmless sheep they appear to be. They are people who drain vitality and poison joy with guilt. They have built an identity on the sacredness of their pain, and their unspoken mission is to prove that life is not worth living. But Nietzsche's final word is not one of warning, but of liberation. He hands us the keys to our own freedom. It is the freedom to reject the morality that tells you to feel ashamed of your strength. It is the freedom to take radical responsibility for your own life, and therefore to refuse to carry the burden of another's. And it is the ultimate freedom to look upon your entire life, the triumphs and the terrors, and to say a defiant, joyful, and unconditional yes. This path is not an easy one. In a world that glorifies victimhood, choosing strength will be seen as an act of aggression. Choosing joy will be seen as an act of insensitivity. But Nietzsche would argue this is the highest form of true compassion, to refuse to participate in the comforting lies that keep people weak. It is to grant every person, yourself included, the terrifying and magnificent freedom to become the author of their own life. If you found value in this exploration and wish to continue questioning the world around you, consider subscribing to the channel. See you in the next video.